Good evening. I'd like to call this city council meeting to order November 17th, 2025. I'd like to inform the public about the location of the Opens Meeting Act posted in the council chambers and accessible to members of the public. At this moment, I'd like to have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Granquist?
Here.
Arns?
Here.
Webb?
Here.
McCarthy?
Here.
Beckman? Here. Jensen?
Here.
Langy?
Here.
Hildebrand?
Here.
Mayor?
I am here. Okay, on to the approval of the consent agenda, moving item number 15 and placing it on the regular agenda.
Mayor, I'll be abstaining from the consent agenda.
Okay.
So moved as changed.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, McCarthy, Granquist, Arns, Jensen, Langy, Webb, Beckman, abstaining, Hildebrand. Motion carries.
All right, now we need approval for the full agenda, including item number 15 now on the full agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, second. Please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, moving on to public hearing and related action. At this time, I'll ask Frank to come over and
we're going to open up a public hearing at the request of Carnegie Library Lofts LLC to consider a zoning change from C3 to R3 on property addressed as 803 West Norfolk Avenue.
Hi.
Please state your name.
Yes.
And
My name is Audrey Michelle Fisher. I'm the owner of Carnegie Library Lofts. We are passing out packets, which I now forgot. Is there an extra? I forgot to hold one for myself. Sorry. So yes, we are here wanting a zoning change from commercial to residential. And so I have a short presentation kind of explaining where we are coming from, beginning with a little bit about myself. I am a Norfolk native. I graduated from Norfolk High and went to the University of Nebraska studying interior design. I live in Denver, Colorado now, but I've decided to purchase the old library, historic library on Norfolk Avenue, which is the subject of our conversation here. So the project goal on page 3. Our main goal here is to preserve a historic community landmark, which is listed in the comprehensive plan as someplace Norfolk wants to preserve. So our goal is to not only preserve the historic landmark, but attract visitors to downtown Norfolk, supporting local businesses. And I believe being the anchor to the Welcome to River Point sign, which sounds like it's landing in the front yard of a library. So the next page, I wanted to show a little bit about what our intention is for the inside. We want to keep the idea of it being a library. So this idea of dark academia, we do want to have books everywhere, and again, help people feel like they're staying in a library, making it feel like you are back in the 1900s when it was built. staying in an old historic location. So my point here is the pictures you see throughout the presentation are indicative of our plans for the design of the building. So our explanation of the zoning change on page 5, again, we are looking to move from commercial to residential. And our idea here is to have a flexible hotel-like facility that runs as a short-term rental and extended stays for executives. So a short-term rental and mid-term rental model is our plan. Again, preserving downtown Norfolk's building, its history, its integrity, and with the goal of supporting businesses in downtown Norfolk. So transitioning the property from residential to commercial, and we are looking at 4 units in the building. So it'll be 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms upstairs, 2 units, and then 2 more units in the basement, which I have on the following pages. But the next question for rezoning was Norfolk's comprehensive plan. So I wanted to point out that the Carnegie Library is in the comprehensive plan, specifically listed on page 77, where Norfolk wants to preserve this historic building, and also with Norfolk's vision to provide a place people want to visit, experience, and stay, and also calls for continued development of vibrant entrepreneurial downtown that provides unique experiences and qualities, bringing visitors into the city. And so our justification is, this adaptive reuse project is in one of our most significant landmarks, and our goal is to bring guests into downtown, have them patronize our nearby restaurants, shops, and amenities, which we believe is part of the comprehensive plan and vision to encourage reinvestment in the downtown community. So we're really excited to be a part of the neighborhood. So on page 8, it shows where the library is located on 8th and Norfolk Avenue. One of the biggest questions was, does our plan fit within the neighborhood? So surrounding our building are small businesses, a restaurant, civic buildings, residential dwellings. So it's a very mixed-use area to begin with. So we do occupy a very prominent gateway to downtown. And we want to make it be like the beginning of the downtown business district and bring people into downtown. So on page 9, we have where we're at right now with the plan. Just wanted to share that with everybody. We've got it'll be 4 fully functioning residential units. So 2 units upstairs, 2 units downstairs. The upstairs units are both 2-bedroom, 2-bath. The downstairs we're still working through, but that's looking like 3-bedroom, 3-bath, and a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom. But very open to highlight, if you've ever been in the library, it's got like 14-foot ceilings. It's a beautiful building, very well preserved, and we want to keep all of that. So wanted to have a very open, luxurious plan that really makes you feel like you're staying in the old library. And then I included a couple of letters that I've collected from for local support, both Brooke Anderson with the Economic Development Coordinator and Tracy Jeffrey with Visit Norfolk. I've been chatting with them and are very supportive of the idea. So any questions I can answer?
I do have a
Sure.
question. You said short-term and midterm. What's kind of your definition of midterm?
Sure. So short-term being anything under that 30-day stay. So, renting it like an Airbnb where people can come in for the night, for the weekend, but also having flexibility to go over the 30-day stay into what we would call midterm rentals for nurses, for executives, but all furnished rentals. So it wouldn't be for long-term for somebody to live. So the vision really isn't to have somebody come hunker it down, make that their home. The vision is really to have it be for shorter stints, again, bringing people into downtown Norfolk.
So no midterm wouldn't require a contract?
I mean, I would,
It would.
personally, I would want a contract for somebody to stay there for like 3 months. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, so what's the maximum on a midterm?
You know, I don't think there's a maximum necessarily. It would be like month to month, but with the intention that like this is not your home. This is, you know, again, a travel nurse or like an executive for one of the bigger companies in town.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
sure.
Anybody else have a question? Thank you. Can you
Thank
please
you.
sign in too?
I did, yes.
Thank you. Val, do you want to offer any comments on the zoning?
So I'll just bring up the zoning map for you to see. So we're looking at this piece of property right here. This is the old library, so you can see that it's C3, C1, C3 on two sides, and then I1 on the other. So it would be similar to what we've done here recently, that there would be an affidavit filed that they're the one making the zone change, so that if something ever did happen, the buffer yard would be on them. It would then, because this would be considered apartments, the residential parking requirements would kick in, unlike a hotel that would have a different parking requirement. So we've gone over all of that with them. We did kind of do this a little bit backwards, that she went to the Board of Adjustment first because we do have that 10% or one maximum short-term rental for multifamily units. And so that was going to be a detriment to what they wanted to do, that they would only be able to do one being a short-term rental with the other three being more of the midterm at that point in time, 31 days or more. The Board of Adjustment did grant that variance. I had them do the Board of Adjustment first, just so that they wouldn't be stuck with an R3 residential, just in case the board didn't deny, or did deny the variance, that they could go back and do a hotel with short and long-term stays. So that's why we kind of did things a little bit backwards. Any questions for me on kind of the process that we went through and why we're kind of where we are right now?
I don't have any.
I don't necessarily, other than do you foresee any parking issues? I assume not.
It appears that they had enough, as long as they keep those in the back off of the alley.
Sure.
They would have enough for the 8 if they're only doing 4. In pre-plannings, we were talking 4 to 6, or however many they could fit. So if they've come to a conclusion on 4, then the 8 would fit in that back space.
But it'll be nice seeing something go in there, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be, I mean, it's a beautiful plan that's there. I may have missed it, but how many bedrooms per unit? Was it 2?
3 and 1.
It varies a little bit, so we didn't want to make it exactly the same. So upstairs, we were planning on two bedrooms, so 4 bedrooms upstairs in 2 separate units. And then downstairs, we're looking at, again, 2 separate units, but one being 3 bedrooms and one being 1. So 4 upstairs, 4 downstairs, just configured a little bit different.
Council have any more questions? If
I
not,
do.
we'll-
I guess
okay.
it's just, and this is just kind of a procedural one. I guess it would be imperative for me to know why Shane excused himself from this body.
It's, well, I received the notice right before the meeting, and I believe that he's done some work already on the project. So that's my understanding.
I appreciate that. Thank
Anybody from the public like to give any input? This is a public hearing. Okay.
I think the one thing that's interesting too is that, yeah, we got C3, C3, and C1. We also have it touches R3, so to the southwest there. So that yellow that you see is R3. So it's not like we're an island either.
Good point. Hey, ask for short title.
Commission report. So the Norfolk Planning Commission held a public hearing on November
Planning
4th,
Commission.
2025 to consider a zoning change from C3 Service Commercial District to R3 Multiple Family Residential District on property addressed as 803 West Norfolk Avenue. The Planning Commission recommends approval of the request with a 6-0 vote.
Okay, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. And I'll ask for consideration of ordinance number 5955.
I'll offer consideration ordinance number 5955.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Seeing none, short title.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Madison County, Nebraska, amending the zoning district map of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, providing when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and providing for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance number 5955 carries on first reading.
I'll make a motion, I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules and pass this ordinance on second and third.
Second.
Okay. Motion is second. We will take a vote on that as well.
All council members voting in the affirmative. Ordinance number 5955 carries on second and third.
Thanks, Audrey, for coming back and investing in your community.
All right, moving on to the regular agenda. Brings up item number 15. Motion to establish December 1st, wait a second, am I wrong? Yes. Motion to establish December 1st, 2025 for the Board of Equalizations to conduct a public hearing for the equalization of a special assessment for paving district number 521, water extension districts number 128, and sanitary sewer extension district number 255, all in the Norfolk 140 subdivision. Steve? Yeah, I need a motion for that, please.
Yeah, Mayor and Council.
Hold on, we need a motion.
I so move.
Second. A motion, a second. Okay, now you can go, Steve.
Mayor and Council, prior to holding the assessment hearing, we're required to set a date, and so this is simply setting the date for the assessment hearing, which is where the Board of Equalization would hear the assessments and ultimately approve those. I understand that there was some question to there being no attachment. Again, the only thing this is doing is providing public notice that December 1st it will be the assessment hearing.
Just for the record, could you state where Norfolk 140 subdivision is located?
The Norfolk 140 subdivision is it's sort of a private industrial park. It's where the Nebraska Machinery built the new Caterpillar dealership out there on the west side of the town, east, a little bit east of the old Stala home site. Yeah, so I don't know if that's being shown there. It would be directly west of the Fountain Point Medical Center. There you go. There are 3 properties that'll be assessed at the hearing, Lot 1, 2, and 3 of that subdivision.
Correct me if I'm wrong, those properties were on ag deferment from the get-go, right? Initially were not assessed.
There
Is this-
has been no assessment. We've just completed the work.
Oh, but what about the street there that goes into on the east side of there, right? Doesn't that have to be assessed yet, or has that already happened?
That's all, that's all.
It's all taken care of?
It's all getting assessed.
Once they went to commercial from ag?
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay. That was a very heated discussion back in the day. If anybody remembers that. So that was brought forward from a request from, do you want a chance to come on up and ask the reasoning behind that?
Jim McKenzie, I guess my question was, the staff memo says that there is an attached copy that's going to be sent to the property owners of what the assessments are, and are you approving as a council, are you approving what you're sending to those property owners tonight?
We usually contact the property owners verbally in the case of a development where it's all one developer that's being assessed. We communicate that verbally for the most part. We do send them a copy of what those assessments are going to be.
Okay. I'm just procedurally, I'm just
Yes,
trying to
sir.
understand it. As an elected body, how much total dollars did the community invest in that, and how much of that is assessed? And as an elected body, are we making that decision tonight as to what we're going to send to the property owner to tell them what our potential assessment is going to be?
No, that is not on the agenda for discussion. That would be discussed at the actual assessment hearing.
Okay, so you're not approving tonight what you're, so
Just-
when you send that to them, you're sending it without council approval, you're sending what you want to send to them?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion on item number 15? Seeing none, please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Right, that moves us to item number 21, consideration approval of an amendment to the engineering services amendment dated November 21st, 2022 with HDR Engineering, Inc. for the levy certification, Phase 3B, project for an additional amount of $649,588.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval.
I'll second that.
All right, a motion and a second, leads for discussion. Steve, will you take the lead on this?
Yes, council. This is the amendment to the HDR engineering contract for final design and permitting services related to the levy certification. We started this process now probably 9 years ago, and have been through a couple modifications of the contract with HDR in these last 8-9 years. Recertification of our levy is driven substantially by FEMA remapping the waterway, the drainage system itself. And when they do that and update what we refer to as the FEMA maps, the flood maps, the process of recertifying the levee goes along with that. There has been some delay in the recertification as a function of some of the water events that we've experienced over the last 5 or 6 years. And so the project itself has been delayed as a function of that. We are getting close as a function of the Phase 3A. That was where we had selected a few alternatives, and we're going through alternatives analysis. As a function of going through the alternatives analysis, I would report that we believe at the end of the project, that the scope of the project will be reduced. That has to do with some areas that there was a concern for seepage along the south levee or the west levee. Some of those were worked through during the Phase 3A or the alternatives analysis portion. So the big picture there is, we do think that the cost of that project is going south, not north, or down, not up. So again, Phase 3B here is what's before you tonight, an amendment with HDR. We're probably 4 to 6 months away from final design, submitting the design to the Corps of Engineers. That review, there's usually several meetings that will occur during that review process. Ultimately, there'll be some modifications coming out of the plans, and then we think we'll be ready probably early to mid 2027 to be bidding out the project. So there is a representative here from HDR tonight if there are questions specific to HDR on the project.
Steve, were we anticipating this increase?
Yes, this is a budgeted increase. So throughout the project, as we enter each phase, we modify the contract for that phase. This is about 125,000 under what we're budgeting for, just in case there are future modifications. But, yeah, we've got, I think, about 775 budgeted for this phase.
Randy, I know this has been kind of a topic we've been touching on for a few years now, just simply because of the price tag that's going to come along with it. And for his overall budget, what do you have anticipated? I mean, you're talking with seepage is a little bit less than what you thought. You thought maybe this might be going down from typically we have budget right now. Can you touch on what we have budget right now and then moving forward, how this is going to look like when we get to 2028?
We have about $7 million, is that right, in the CIP? And that flows through our entire process and goes into the debt service on that goes into the debt service fund and gets factored into that long-term financial plan and what we are projecting for a property tax increase out the next 10 years. So from what Steve's saying, that's probably heavy, and we probably won't need all of the property tax that we've got in the long-term financial plan for this project.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say as a function of this phase, it'll be a little bit tight, but I'm sure as we go into the budgets next spring, we'll be modifying our projected construction costs on that project.
All right.
Steve, is there a date this had to be recertified by? Did they ever give us anything on that?
Paul can probably answer that better from HDR. I think there's a window there around the FEMA's process once they finalize their process. I don't know exactly what it is, but there's a window there around their process that we have to certify our flood levy, that it now meets those new flows that potentially it's going to see in a flood event.
So we don't necessarily know an exact date, it's just dependent on once
You know,
information's
Paul,
sent
I'll
off
have
to
Paul
FEMA.
come up.
All right. Paul Woodward with HDR Engineering. Yeah, it's typically a 2-year window, but again, we don't know. Right now, FEMA and the state have kind of stopped updating the maps. They're waiting for more information, so we don't know when that 2-year window will start. We just know it's been delayed for now. So we're still in good shape to get ready for construction, get it done, and move forward. Yep.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Paul?
Yeah. Any questions from the public? Please come forward if you have anything. All right. We have a motion second, so please vote.
All council members voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Right, we're on to item number 22, consideration approval of ordinance number 5956, approving the updated fiscal year 2025-2026 classification and pay plan with an effective date of January 1st, 2026.
I'd make the motion.
Second?
Right, we have a motion and a second. Jessica, will you lead this discussion, please?
Yes, I will. Good evening, Mayor and council members. We've had this discussion over the summer, and we're here today to present some proposed key realignments from the compensation study that the city did last fall and winter. So we're already a year past that point, but I just wanted to provide a little bit of history. These recommendations were these are some of the recommendations that were brought forward in September for the budget review process and ultimately were put on hold for further review. So there were no changes made at that time, and the current pay ordinance from last year just stayed in place. So what's before you in the agenda packet is an updated pay ordinance with not all of the compensation study adjustments. It only focuses on positions that have had job description and responsibility changes. There's been departmental realignments. There's level adjustments for employees and critical pay equity and risk factors that we're trying to address immediately from some of these adjustments. And again, Zell was our consultant last year. They are the ones that vetted these recommendations. But we would like to move forward with this current pay ordinance. It has gone before subcommittee for policies and procedures, and we would like the effective date to be January 1st, so we have time to make process changes through payroll. It takes time to even do that. So I'd be happy to take any questions or comments about this.
I think you guys have done a great job with coming down to the core group that we need to address, and I think it's time we get things moving.
Thank you, Sue.
In this study, Jessica, the studies showed us that for the market, the dispatchers were the main positions that we were not in line with the market. Is that correct?
It's one of several positions, but that one is significantly low. And that's part of this group where we're trying to develop levels of growth for dispatchers so that if they become trainers for dispatchers, they're in a higher level. So to incentivize them for doing extra work, it's more responsibility, and it is very stressful to train the level 1 dispatchers that are coming in. And we've experienced turnover, unfortunately, and we're trying to build back that team. But I think this is one effort to move forward with to try to retain the staff in dispatch.
I don't remember any other position being market-driven other than those positions. The rest I remember being internal inequities.
No, there were others that were below market, but that is a significant one. You're correct.
How are we, Randy, what's the total cost of this?
The first year cost is, I believe, that's in the agenda packet, I think it's like $58,000. That's 3/4 of the fiscal year. And then that cost increases to, let me call that up here. Yeah, that cost increases to just under $100,000 the next fiscal year, and that's for the positions that Jessica has recommended that we implement. And then those costs go up, somewhat more quickly for the first 7 years because we've got to get people out there to that H step before it starts going into just the normal cost of living type adjustments. But that and this is according to the assumptions in the long-term financial plan, 10 years out, fiscal year 34, 35, that would have a cost of about $176,000. And that's assuming a 3% COLA to match a 3% inflation rate we have in the long-term financial plan.
So when we raised the property tax levy 2.7% in this budget year? Didn't we increase the levy by 2.7%, generating, what was it, 240,000?
Yes, we'd matched the inflation rate, basically.
What was the
That
revenue
actually
generated
lowered
off?
our levy rate, but increased our property tax asking.
What was the revenue generated off 2.7% increase?
Oh,
So it was 240,000.
I can't remember that exactly now, but that sounds about right.
And I guess I'd like to add to that, any positions that are on hold as a result of last year's study, we're still evaluating that as well as all the other positions at the city. We do that every year. We just want to try to remedy some things that changed last year that we do believe need to be corrected. So just wanted to add that point as well. All right. Thank you for your time.
Any additional comments? Any questions from the public, please do so now.
Jim McKenzie, I just noticed, I don't have a huge issue with, I just noticed a couple positions that seem to differ from the pay ordinance from what the Zelli study showed. Unless I'm seeing it wrong, the Resource and Recovery Superintendent looked like on the Zelli study went from a 26 to a 27, which is a 1 grade increase, but on the pay ordinance, it looks like it went from a 26 to a 29, which is about on the top end of the pay scale, is a $17,000 pay increase. And then I think the wastewater supervisor on the Zelli study was a 21 to a 22, and it appears it went from a 21 to a 24 on the ordinance. So just seemed like those were in discrepancy from the study. I don't know if that changed or something along the way.
Right, we can address that for you, Jim.
All right, thanks.
That is a great point, Jim. Steve, you may need to provide some insight on this. This position was part of a realignment that was generated likely after those data points. And so there was a separate analysis done on these two positions that he mentioned. And so Steve, do you want me to describe the changes of that and then you can add to it? So this position was originally the water pollution control superintendent. And now that position has taken responsibility and oversight of the transfer station, solid waste coalition, and that is what caused a higher responsibility change and just the compliance factors that have gone into that role and how critical it is to try to replace that position, as well as the water director. Those are two very critical roles, but because they took on extra responsibility, we felt that this was important. We did ask Zell to verify that change, which also resulted in that supervisor to increase along with it to match the solid waste supervisor, because they're going to match kind of that level of authority under that new realigned position. So I'll let Steve add to that.
So historically at the wastewater, between the wastewater plant and the solid waste system, the more senior employee has sort of been the overall supervisor out there. And that's bounced around between whether or not the senior employee was with solid waste or the senior employee was at wastewater. And that certainly worked for us for quite a while. As our systems are becoming more complex, as we're looking to add pretreatment systems out there for our industries, we're spending a lot more time working with industrial permitting, industrial pretreatment permits. And so the time requirement for the wastewater supervisor or superintendent has substantially increased over the last, I'd say, 25 years. Also, we're seeing that between the solid waste system and the wastewater plant, those really coexist in the world of what's called resource recovery. And we're also, there's a lot of community conversation about recycle and trying to move recycle forward or move Norfolk forward in the recycle world. And so working with Jessica over the last year and a half or so, restructuring, so we've got we're moving the individual that is currently our wastewater superintendent, that person would be shifted to the resource recovery director and fully sit over both of those positions, or supervise the wastewater plant and our solid waste recovery system. So those are the kind of the conversations that are going on there as our wastewater superintendent really takes that position above those two operations. There is a movement from the operator there at the wastewater plant, and that individual would become, we adjusted them up to become equivalent to the solid waste supervisor. So that's the movement that's going on in there. So it'll no longer be the senior employee out there that's overseeing both systems. It'll be an actual position with very direct supervisory services over those two positions or two operations. Both of those exist as they're part of our enterprise fund. So solid waste is a business entity that's operated by the city. We receive fees through solid waste. Those fees operate the system. Same with wastewater. We receive our sewer fees. Those sewer fees operate the wastewater system. So we have an individual out there that's running two business entities at the city.
Any other questions for Steve?
Steve, I'd also comment that this new resource recovery director position also has a coalition to do with the landfill as well. That's another added responsibility, correct?
That is correct. We, the city of Norfolk, are the administration arm of the Solid Waste Coalition. And so that our solid waste supervisor spends about half their time out at the landfill and about half their time on site here at our transfer station.
And I would just say that anybody who works in the wastewater, you would understand that if we don't do things correctly, the fines that are assessed and also the health concerns that we shove downstream are very critical and costly if we do not have the right person in place.
That's correct, Councilman. There's a lot of chemistry that takes place out there, and there's a lot of new regulations that are coming at us. And so there's a lot of time spent just staying up to date on EPA requirements, federal requirements, maintaining our permit with the state, and staying ahead of that. Norfolk historically has been a shining star in our state, and we want to continue to be a shining star here, staying ahead of those regulations, anticipating those. It's staff like the staff we have. They do a great job, and we want to keep them here doing a great job.
And I think it should be noted that our water superintendent and his staff is what keeps our community healthy and safe. It's the fastest way to damage a community and make it sick is have bad water.
I have a question maybe for Jessica. So there's several different divisions that are bundled into this comp study. Is there a reason why they're just not compensated within their own department?
I'm not sure I'm understanding your question as far as like in terms of budget or what are you?
Well, like wastewater, like why can't that, if that is funded with enterprise funds, why can't that just be
Like a separate
budgeted within
change?
their own budget?
Yeah, and I think this year or this last budget year was a little complex in trying to bring forward a lot of changes in one package, and some we could have done as separate items, but we wanted to make sure we were evaluating all employees fairly. And so I think for future purposes, that's a great point. It's a different type of budget that we have more freedom to work with compared to the general fund, if that's what you're saying. I think that is an opportunity.
Yeah, so those positions are not funded out of the general fund.
Right.
If that's part of the answer to that. You know, but all employees fall into those grades and
Grades.
steps, whether you know, and so this is just showing you the grades that those employees are in or being adjusted to. The dollars to pay for these changes come out of our enterprise funds if they're a water or sewer employee, solid waste employee. Those changes, that $58,000, and I can't necessarily speak for, I don't know if the $58,000 was the total sum of the changes in here.
That
or
was
whether
just
that's
the general fund.
So Steve, why haven't you made those changes if you fund it through the enterprise fund? Why haven't you given those raises to those employees?
We still rely on council to be the approving body for those increases.
And it was still technically part of the compensation analysis of reviewing job descriptions, so it was part of that project. But it would have been nice if we could have just created a few changes, but we wanted to make sure we brought everything forward as part of the project. But we can do things a little differently next year.
Any other questions? Any additional questions from the public?
Jessica, I got a memo today from Randy Gates speaking to the changes that you wanted to make. How come that memo wasn't in the enclosure to go step by step to show the council?
You know, because it's personnel, I think that was meant for a conversation for subcommittee, but if you want me to walk through that tonight, I sure can, if you feel
No,
like
not
that's.
necessarily walk through it, but why didn't the council get that memo so they can better understand what they're voting on? And
I do believe it was emailed out to the entire council from that subcommittee. Am I wrong in saying that, Kylie?
Yeah, it would have been with the minutes.
Yeah, so.
I didn't have it, so.
Okay.
I can re-email it.
I have it now from Randy, but I did not have it. I was talking to Randy and I did not have it, so.
Okay, well, we apologize for that. The intent was for it to go out to everybody, so if you have any questions related to the changes, I'm happy to answer.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, please vote. Oh, I'm sorry, I gotta start over here. Discussion, or a short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, classifying the employees of the city, fixing the ranges of compensation of such employees, providing a pay range, repealing ordinance number 5945, providing for publication in pamphlet form, and when this ordinance shall take effect.
All right. Now you can vote.
Voting in the affirmative, McCarthy, Granquist, Arns, Jensen, Langy, Hildebrand, Beckman. Voting in opposition, Webb. Ordinance number 5956 carries on first reading.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and pass this on second and third.
Second.
All All right, any discussion? All right, seeing none, please vote.
Voting in the affirmative, McCarthy, Grandquist, Arns, Jensen, Langy, Hildebrand, Beckman. Voting in opposition, Webb. Ordinance number 5956 carries on second and third.
All right, on to item number 23. Consideration of approval to authorize the hiring of 3 additional firefighters for the Norfolk Fire Division. Need a motion?
I would make the motion.
Second.
All right, a motion and second. Chief's going to come up and lead us in discussion.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tim Rogge, Fire Chief. I appreciate you hearing me out this evening. It's been kind of a roller coaster the last 5 months, as you can expect with any grant, especially when you're working with federal government and some of the things that have happened. Just to recap, we have been discussing adding staffing for the past 3 to 5 years. In 2019, right before the pandemic, we were able to add 3, which is 1 per shift, getting us to 10 per shift. And then in 2022, we asked to add a +1 with the thought being if somebody is down to prolonged injury, illness, heaven forbid, we've dealt with military deployments, we can float that person to the other shift and keep them whole at 10, which has proven to be very, very helpful for us. We had a couple shoulder surgeries we had to work around last year, and we were able to float that person over. At that time, when we added +1, we discussed with the subcommittee of adding more, and it just didn't work at that time with some different lid limits that were in place that we just couldn't make it happen. So we did 1, which I'm very grateful for. Fast forward, the call numbers soared, and we hit that last year of 3,512 calls, which was a couple hundred higher than we had seen before, and just continued to shout out that we needed extra help, and that's where we came back to the council last January, started talking again about adding staffing, looking at alternative funding, and applied for a staffing adequate response grant, SAFER grant, for the fire service. That application was in the end of June, and we were supposed to find out by September 30th if we were awarded the grant. Government went into shutdown right at September 30th or shortly thereafter, and we had multiple sources say that all awards were given out by that date. If you had not heard, you were unsuccessful. So there was still some uncertainty there because government went into shutdown October 1st, and even though those that had gotten the awards were notified, those that were unsuccessful were supposed to hear by mid-October, but the government was in shutdown that entire time. So I patiently followed all the votes to reopen the government, which, as you know, took north of 40 days, until recently when they did reopen and got the federal workers back into their offices. And we started explaining to subcommittee that we don't think we got this grant, but we still need these positions. Can we figure out a way? And that is when we started talking in Public Safety Subcommittee about what's the plan, how can we fund these positions, what does it mean financially? So the memo that I submitted for Public Safety Subcommittee, this last subcommittee meeting, and then today's memo got to you. I apologize for the delay on that, but it should be in your hands tonight. We had to, as recently as last Thursday and then Friday morning, we pulled this item off the agenda because we didn't think we were going to hear back from anybody from the federal government offices because they just got back Thursday morning. And then Friday at 4 o'clock, I got an email saying if you did not receive notice by September 30th, you were in fact unsuccessful, but turn down notices still could take a few weeks. So we got this back on the agenda to discuss tonight. From a financial standpoint, and Randy can correct me, $326,000 and some change is basically what it costs to add 3 positions. We had 25% of that accounted for in our budget, which is a little over $80,000, because that was the 25% match that we would have been responsible for, leaving roughly $244,000 that the grant would have covered and what we needed to come up with to try to find a way to fund these positions this year and get those folks hired for the last 10, 11 months of the year. That is if we had them for an entire year. So that $244,000 shrinks down to a little over $200,000 if we're to get them on board by the middle of December, early January. So the things that we looked at from funding mechanism, how do we do that? There's some ground emergency medical transport legislation that is new. Basically, that provides additional reimbursement for qualifying Medicaid patients. Instead of getting $387 for a qualifying Medicaid patient, you get closer to what you bill, which an ALS call is north of $1,000, so it closes the gap drastically on that. The numbers that we are seeing based on the last couple of years of calls is that could be an additional revenue of somewhere around $160,000 a year annually. Those funds wouldn't start until next year, but that'll be a sustainable fund as those types of calls will ultimately continue to come in. The other thing we looked at is the funds that were set aside for fire division employees in the comp study. The fire division employees were not part of the comp study adjustments that you just approved. That number was around $106,000, I'm sorry, 106,282. And what we'd be asking for is the council to consider using those funds to help offset this initial year, which leaves around $90,000 that we would be asking for out of council priority dollars to finish what it would cost to get these folks on board for the last 10 and a half months of this year. Again, the calls have continued to come. I know that there were 2 departments in Nebraska that were successful that I've heard from, and 3 of us that were not. There's over $300 million that are given out in SAFER grants, and they give right around 300 awards across the country. So it doesn't take very long, about $1 million a crack for departments that receive those across the country, and some of the bigger departments that consume a lot more of that money. So from a callback perspective, and the staffing, we would be taking our minimum staffing from 8 to 9, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a big deal. It can mean the difference in the back of an engine of having a partner to go interior to a fire or not when we're responding to a fire call. We've had north of 250 callbacks, meaning our stations are either one or both stations are empty, and our off-duty staff have done a phenomenal job of covering those, but we've had 28 of those so far that went unanswered where we didn't have people backfilling calls in the stations and had to call it to mutual aid. Again, going from 8 to 9 doesn't seem like a lot, but in our firehouses, it's actually a big difference. So I've talked enough, and I would entertain any questions you might have.
Yeah, Chief, just kind of going through your funding process here. You started with 326, you had 80K budgeted. Then you were talking about the 360 you were billing out now. I believe now could move up to 1,000 with the Medicaid or Medicaid billing.
Yeah, from the from the Medicaid, not Medicare.
Okay,
the Medicaid
Medicaid.
Patients, Medicaid's only going to pay out so much per call. So if we bill $1,100 right now, I think we collect around $387. So what that legislation will do for us is it'll get us much closer to what we're actually billing for services. So
And you thought there's about a year's time, another additional 160,000 into your
Right.
budget?
Yes.
So that puts you at 84,000 as of, and then 84,000 was coming from,
We talked about using the comp study dollars, the $106,000.
106 from the comp.
Yep. The thing with the 160, that doesn't start until next year.
Right, so I thought at one time we were throwing around some council priority funds. Is that?
Yes. Yes, this year, we'd be able, if we use the comp study, that would take that 200,000 or 244,000 down. If we use the 106,000. I think there was roughly 200,000 if we only had 10 months instead of 12 months that it would cost to hire these positions. And if we used 106,000 of the comp study dollars, that would come down to less than 100,000, and that would be the amount we'd be looking at for council priority dollars. In the years to come, as far as sustainability, those new revenues that kick in will help this be more sustainable, and then we can adjust our budget for the difference next year. But this year, we wouldn't have that available, so.
Correct, right, but I mean, I kind of was reading this off like what you're anticipating future-wise.
Yeah.
So, there's a potential we could, future going in, like, next, we might be pulling from council priority dollars until we see revenues change within the city's budget, might look like that long-term.
Yeah, I mean, speak to that, Randy. My understanding was we would modify our budget to help with the opposite.
Yeah, this first year, we're recommending council priority dollars, as you said. Going forward, it'll be massaged into our entire budget process, and depending on how sales tax comes in, which is a big driver of our budget, we will have a much better idea as we go through that budget process if we will need council priority dollars going forward or not. The $160,000 that Tim talks about is an estimate, but that's for our Medicaid supplemental reimbursement. We won't know for sure what that is until we get farther into the process and start collecting those dollars. The way I understand it, it's a statewide average of costs for Medicaid transports that our reimbursement is based on. And those cost reports aren't even due into the state until December 19th, I believe. So all of these numbers we're talking about are estimates. And as we get into next fiscal year, that'll be thrown into that whole big budget process, which will become much clearer as we go through it. But yes, council priority dollars may be a possible funding source going forward.
Chief, I have a question for you.
Yep.
The SAFER grant, is that one that you can apply for every year?
So it is designed for new hires in fire service or retaining hires or taking hires from volunteer to full-time. So I haven't gotten a good answer on, I don't think it can be used for sustainability in full-time firefighter positions. So if we hired these positions right now and then reapplied next year, it would be for staffing above and beyond what we currently had. Or if you were doing it for retention from changing a volunteer to a full-time firefighter, then you could take these same staff that you have and then now start paying them.
But you can apply for this SAFER grant every year.
Yeah, you could apply for every year if you wanted to, absolutely.
And is it calendar year?
We applied in June this year, and I don't recall what the deadline was, sometime in July, I think. So I think they're already gearing up for some of the grants that are coming the next go-around.
The question I ask is this a priority to add 3 immediately, or is this one where you could stagger it and you could apply for that SAFER grant next year for the possibility of a second or a third hire?
To me, it's 100% priority to hire them all together. We have 3 solid candidates ready and waiting, 2 of whom are already credentialed to the max of what we would ask, and another who's in the process. Taking a candidate crew through with multiple at a time as opposed to one makes the probationary academy much more effective. It's the numbers that were driven by SAFER. And the reason we asked for 3, when we initially started these discussions, we talked about 2, but the numbers that were driven by SAFER, our consultant said 3 loud and clear, that you should add 3, and that'll get you where you need to be right now for staffing. So I am fully committed to try to get 3 positions at once, and there's really no other way for me to say that. That's, in my mind, the best and safest way to move forward, so.
I appreciate your response.
Yep.
One comment I'd like to make is that we're always going to have to find room in our general fund budget to pay for these. SAFER was just a 3-year program.
Right.
So it's to help ease us into funding these positions ourselves. So if we would have gotten the SAFER grant, we'd still be looking at general funding for these 3 positions several years down the road. This just moved it up when we have to get that general funding and provide for these positions ourselves.
That's exactly what I was thinking also, and especially when we were talking about council priority dollars. And we did talk about the immediate need and possibly using council priority dollars. But I believe there is subcommittee conversations about that not being something that's going to be relied on for payroll and not going down that road.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what they're for. Their council priority dollars for short-term issues
Right,
and
but
get things
it
fixed. And
sounds
then,
like there's a possibility of it's
right. Yep.
not necessarily short-term, and that's not what.
Well, it's basically going to be up to the council moving forward long-term, because there was a time when the council priority dollars were used to fund payroll. And then there was a council that came on board and they said they didn't want that, so they took it out. We're in a
Right.
situation now where we have to use council priority dollars in this situation because it's a safety issue for the community. But then you're gonna have a council who are turnover or whatnot, who will come forward again and say, these aren't appropriate to be using for payroll and you need to get them out of there because it was a self-imposed property tax increase in 2000 what? 1, 2? Somebody, that's where
I'm
council
just saying,
priority
that's
dollars.
where Randy's conversation is, the grant was 3 years
Yeah.
to get us to a point. And
Correct.
we have to think about it, what we're doing. in our
Yeah, no, you make a
general
valid,
fund.
you make a valid point though. I mean, you're making a valid point.
Yeah, the grant would have been 25% match for the city in years 1 and 2, and it goes up to 65 in year 3. So by year 3, we would have been approaching almost 3/4 of our costs, so.
So Randy, to take us possibly to the next budget cycle, to forecast what we'll be dealing with next budget cycle, say sales tax stays as projected, flat. Say council priority dollars have a different use. How do we fund this?
That'll be something that the city council has to decide as we go through the budgetary process and set our priorities.
What's the funding mechanism do you believe that would pay for it?
Bottom line is the default funding mechanism, when you can't come up with something else, seems to be property tax. We got flexibility in property tax. Sales tax, we don't have flexibility on really. It's a set rate. We can't raise that up and down easily. Property tax is something we can raise up and down easily, but we're a long ways from knowing what our budget's gonna look like as we start putting it together for next fiscal year.
That's my concern with all this, is that when we're talking to citizens, we say, well, 80% of the budget is payroll. We don't really have much say in that payroll. Well, tonight proves that we do. So when next year comes around and property taxes have to be increased to fund what we're doing here today, we have to stand behind to say, your property taxes are increasing because of the votes that we made on personnel. And so we have to decide, is it important to do this? And will the citizens agree with us that their property taxes will go up and they find this as a value to do that?
Well, I think when you're talking about fire, you're talking about safety, and the citizens are the ones we're protecting by doing this. So I am completely behind this. He's got 3 great candidates. I think now's the time. They're almost, 2 are certified completely, am I right, Chief?
Yes, there'd be, so we have different certifications. The medical certifications they take time. Right now, we have 5 students in the paramedic program. So hiring people, that aren't paramedics or EMTs, if they're good people, it's great. We've been really fortunate to have some great hires. They just didn't have those credentials yet, and they're going through class, and they're amazing. Finding hires that already have some of those credentials, whether it be medical or fire, is pretty challenging right now in the fire service as a whole. This particular group that came through was a great group from top to bottom as far as our candidates. So we had some paramedics, we had some EMTs, we had some with fire experience. Our top 3 that are sitting there right now will not require some of the same EMS training that others are going through right now to get where we're going. So
So they're fire ready, so to speak.
right.
Chief, my question would be, by hiring these 3 people, where does that set us for the future, though? I mean, are we gonna see another 3 in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? I mean, I know you can't predict the future at all, but I mean, based on what you've seen over the last few years, where do you think, when's our next hire of 3 gonna come? Is that gonna be in 3 years, 5 years? When's that gonna
Based on the
happen?
current numbers, it puts us right where we need to be. And I don't believe, I think we're gonna continue to stay where we're at from a call volume standpoint. We ran 3,500 calls last year. We're under that right now this year. If we hover right around there, this is the ideal amount of people to have. Unless something drastic changes from a call volume perspective, I wouldn't see us looking back at this for a while, or potentially when we start talking more about a 3rd station that would be housed with police and fire both. So I think this puts us in a really good place. And I can't imagine with the same call volume, what we know now, having to come back and ask for more. That's me on record saying that.
Unless the city just kind of blossoms all of a sudden, we have
Yeah,
potential for.
growth drives call volume, and there's so many things that can change your call volume from 100 calls. And that's what we're seeing right now. We've had, a couple different situations that may on their own create 40 calls a year. And then if you don't have those situations anymore, that call fluctuates a little bit. So going to 9 for us, for Norfolk Fire, for this organization is a big deal. Not every department is the same as far as what their minimum staffing has for ideal numbers. But 9 is for us, and basically the SAFER grant and the consultant we hired agreed that was the sweet spot for us. So.
Chief, you said that this extra person will allow backup going into a situation. Right now, what do we do in that situation with the reserves, or how do you fill that hole right now?
Yeah, we have people that are coming in off duty. So an example is, and when I talked about that specific situation, a large percentage of the time we have an ambulance out, at least one ambulance out. So as soon as you do that, it takes 2 to 3 people out of your station to respond. So if a fire comes in, which we've had very recently, and there's any sort of life safety, your officer, you have your driver that's running the pump, is always going to run the pump. More often than not, those initial responses, the officer that you want to keep outside to watch conditions is having to go in on that first hose line with the one person that's in the back until an ambulance can get there to support them. So you're sacrificing your officer that's supposed to be keeping things safe on the outside, and you don't have a backup team established on the outside for those first people that are going in to effect a rescue. So this 9 per shift, the way our 2 stations are set up, we'd have 4 on an engine way more often. And that's statistically more of what drove the SAFER grant than our EMS call volume. They took into consideration how many times our ambulances are out of the service, and then how many times we respond to a fire with a driver, an officer, and only one person in back. So the 9th on a minimum staffing, and there'll be shifts where we could have 10 or 11 on shift if we don't have people off sick or in class. So.
Randy, can you tell us how much we have in council priority and what we last used it on?
We've got about $900,000 in council priority money. We get $400,000 in a year. We've got some of that committed for debt service, I believe. And I'd have to look at that council priority spreadsheet, but you've got several $100,000 of council priority dollars that are available every year.
Thank you.
And if this did all fall through to property tax, and we get the $160,000 that we're hoping to net from the supplemental Medicaid reimbursement, that'd be somewhere in that $80,000 to $90,000 range. You would have to come up with from something else, and if that something else was property tax, it would be about like that first year funding of the comp study. That's that spreadsheet that's in your agenda packet, and that shows it'd be about $3.40 per $100,000 of assessed valuation. But as I mentioned earlier, we're way early. Well, we really haven't even started the budget process for next year. We're just getting started in the budget for this year. So that could look better. It could look worse. We could decide we're going to defer some other expenditure somewhere else to pay for firefighters. There's a lot of things that could happen, but if it did fall through to property tax, that's the kind of impact we're looking at.
Chief, I just wanted to thank you for giving your presentation. And I guess, the public safety part of it is, if that's something that you're adamant, these are the 3 that we need and they should be brought on, I wouldn't disagree with that at all. And as far as funding in the future, I think we'll find a way to do that. But I think we got to keep public safety at the #1 priority right now. And I just appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Tim, I just struggle with this budget cycle. I don't question the need. I don't question what you're saying to us. I just question, in this budget cycle that we just came out of, can we afford to do it? It's the timing of it I struggle with. I'm all for public safety. I know no matter what situation you have, that you're going to operate at a high level and the community safe with whatever we throw at you. So, but my biggest concern is this next budget cycle, how do we afford it? We don't have a funding mechanism. We're leaning on dollars that wasn't allocated for this. We didn't get the grant, so that's what I struggle with. But I do appreciate you, and I know it's hard for you to come up and ask for this when you know the budget is the way it is, so.
Yeah, I don't take that lightly at all. Appreciate the comments.
I just looked at the council priority dollars spreadsheet, that $400,000 that comes in, about half of that is available for something other than the $200,000 that's committed to transfers to the CHAF fund. That was $200,000 that we had originally thought was going to be debt service on CHAF bonds, but decided not to issue. So you've got about half of your council priority dollars every year that's available.
Thank you.
Randy, what's our overall fire budget? What do we spend on fire every year?
Oh, I'd have to look. You probably have a better idea than I do, Tim. I can look that up in just a minute.
Yeah, 5.5 million. Yeah.
It's like 5 point.
I'd have to look at my.
5.5,
but yeah.
5.4, so right there, yep. All right, any additional questions for Chief Rogge while we got him up here? Any questions from the public?
Thank you.
Come forward now. All right, any other thoughts? Okay, we have a motion, a second. We've had our presentation, so please vote.
So with the late addition to the agenda, this was not added to the voting software, so this will be a verbal vote. Grandquist,
Yes.
Arns,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
McCarthy,
Yes.
Beckman,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Hildebrand,
Yes.
Langy,
Yes.
sorry. All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
All right, Justin, do appreciate your comments because you've had three things on this budget tonight, in this meeting tonight that have been anticipation of future revenue. And so it's really tough to make decisions when you can't see the future. And so fortunately, we have, with those council priority funds, that's what they're there for. There's 200,000 going to CHAF right now, which potentially we could potentially stop if we had to. But if we do real well on this police remodel and things work out better on that cost, and some of those funds then can be allocated towards streets, then come back and be there for that, and then you still got $200,000 sitting there. So that to me is kind of what's saving our bacon a little bit with these decisions tonight. So, but do appreciate those concerns. Those are really serious concerns. Okay, moving on. Item number 24. Consideration approval of amendment or addendum. I'm sorry. I got to get some glasses here. Number 1, to the engineering design of services contract with McCleary Engineering for the 25th Street reconstruction, Bidgen Avenue to Eisenhower Avenue project for an amount of $25,000. I'm asking for a motion.
I'll make a motion for consideration of approval.
Second.
I have a motion second. We'll go into discussion. Steve's going to leave us in discussion on this.
Mayor and council, earlier this fall, late summer, engineering staff held meetings with landowners adjacent to the 25th Street reconstruction project. And one of the outcomes of that project was a desire to look at the intersection at Dover and 25th and identify where that intersection sits related to warrants for four-way stop and/or traffic signal system. I think that makes sense to evaluate the intersection for that and make some decisions around that. So we asked, that was not included as a function of the original design. So we asked them to prepare an amendment to the contract. That's what's in front of you as a function of this. What they would do is they would look at the MUTCD warrants, and that's going to, if it comes back that a traffic signal is, I mean, that's desirable, but if it comes back that it doesn't meet the warrants, one thing it would tell us is roughly based on how fast traffic is increasing on 25th, it would tell us when to anticipate a traffic signal And I think that's good. If it, if it doesn't, if we don't meet it now, at least we'll be able to budget for that in the future and kind of have an idea of when in the future that might hit us. The other thing it does, based on the warrants, the warrant information that comes out of the study, is they will develop 3 alternative designs for that intersection to make that a safe intersection based on modern engineering alternatives that we could plug in there. So again, based on the feedback we received during those adjacent landowner meetings, I certainly would support moving this forward. Based on the schedule then, we would anticipate being through this and have some answers out of this early, I'd say mid-February, late February. And then we'd be able to take those to a larger public conversation on that project sometime in March or early April. Any questions?
Steve, how did we get to this point, I guess? Is the intersection unsafe right now? And
Well, as we
I have another
continue,
question. Go ahead.
some of it, I think there's, some of it was a concern about just, I'm not gonna say the speed of traffic in there, but as the traffic volume increases, there was some concern just today, but as we see the Blackberry subdivision develop out, as we see, the Wyndham Hills subdivisions continue to grow out, is that, at what point will that growth require a signal at that intersection? So depending on the answer to that, if it's today, I don't think it is, but if it's today, obviously we would want to get that in. But even if it's in the future, what do we need to do to plan for that from an infrastructure standpoint in that intersection, and how do we lay that out?
So when did that roundabout go in? You know that?
Roundabout,
05.
2010-ish, was it earlier than 2010?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was earlier in 2010.
Not necessarily very old, is all I'm saying there.
Yeah.
But part of the things that we've been doing in this town is what's that?
It went in right after Fire Station 2.
All right, thank you, Lon. Thank you.
2000, Fire Station 2 was 2002, so about 2005, 6.
I said 2005.
20 years.
All right.
But part of our conversations lately were the cost of signals, getting rid of signals, changing our intersections, putting in roundabouts to slow down traffic because they can handle the traffic, and now we're looking at doing an engineering study to change it again. It just seems.
This is 25th and Dover.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I think I'd argue that the roundabout at Benjamin Avenue there on 25th was not right when it went in the first time. It hasn't handled traffic very well coming in and out of there very good.
I mean,
Even though we're not talking about that intersection.
Yeah, sorry.
That roundabout, but you bring it up.
I do.
As we move forward with these designs for I guess I'm just gonna jump in here. So we're talking about 25th Street, I think, and that's a huge project, but it would be nice to know exactly where everybody's at on this project too, as far as moving this one forward. I know we've had some discussion about this, and I know this will be coming forward when we get our strategic
so
plan meeting put together too.
Yep, so we're in design right now. We would anticipate having that 30% design ready for a public open house presentation conversation here in March, and gathering more public input on that corridor.
I know you had maybe a couple public meetings about it.
We've met with, we'd had a conversation with infrastructure subcommittee, and then from there, we met with, we'd set up group meetings for the homeowners that live adjacent to 25th Street. They're the ones that are going to be most impacted by that project. So we wanted to visit with them, get some input from them, get to the 30% design, and then take it out for a larger neighborhood and public meeting.
And Steve, isn't this also kind of related to the trail system and the fact that if we do need to cross that road?
25th is the identified trail crossing, yes. Yeah, and so part of what'll come out of here is looking at that crossing. If it's signalized, it's a much simpler crossing. If it's an unsignalized intersection, does that become a mid-block crossing? Or, what type of an alternative do we want to put in there from a design perspective? And there's multiple solutions that could be plugged in. And so being able to present those to the public in March, say, here's, where's the most support in terms of that trail crossing?
So my bad there, Steve, on
Yeah.
looking up here, Benjamin 25th, but what are what are your thoughts for that possible or probable intersection? Are you honestly thinking that streetlights are the solution to? I know it's a guessing game, and that's why you want to spend 25 grand, so we have a better idea.
If it meets the warrants for signal, let's say it meets the warrants for signal, we're looking at putting this in the ground in 2028, 2028. So I would say if a signal is warranted based on forecasted growth anywhere within the first, I'm going to say 5 years of 2028, so 2028 to say 2032-ish, probably merits putting some hard thought into installing the signals, or at least maybe we get the footings in, we get the box or the signal cabinet in place. We can wait down the road to actually install the signals. Those are the kinds of questions thought processes that we would want to go through a little bit, is that if it doesn't require it, the signal, maybe something else comes out of those warrants. I don't think it's going to be a four-way stop. I'm pretty confident of that, but.
I think that's where I was going with that is, do we really need to spend 25 grand to tell us that, why don't we just prepare it for that anyway, for a signal? And if you use it, you use it. Because it's more than likely going to be a future rather than a four-way stop, or it's going to be a roundabout.
I'd say it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, it'd be similar to 18th and Benjamin, where we have a signalized intersection right there, or Prospect and 25th Street.
Again, why spend the money and not just put it as part of the plan and just be prepared just in case?
I think we just saved you 25 grand.
I'm not opposed to that.
Essentially, you're going to spend 25 grand
signal,
and being
right.
prepared instead of doing a study and then spending
The signal,
another
more than
25 grand
anything,
being
the
prepared.
25,000 might save us 50% of the cost of that infrastructure if it's not needed for a while. But I would say if there's a desire just based on that corridor to install it, I'm not opposed to that.
Just having the infrastructure in the ground ready for it if we need it.
Yeah, at a minimum, we design it and get the infrastructure in the
Yeah.
ground, conduits, signal box. But if that's the direction, I think I would take that back to the design team then, and we'll consume just what the best approach is to that. I didn't think 25,000 was too bad. Signal system's gonna cost us 250, 300,000 probably. And rather than invest that, if it's not needed for 5 years or more, I thought 25,000 was worth getting the answer to that. But if you want to just make that decision here, I'll be happy to move the design forward with the signal.
Or if it's as much as a signal as much as having the infrastructure in there for a signal.
Okay.
Is my thought. Like it's there. Next thing you know, you're putting up lights if you need them, or running wire in the conduit that's there if you need it.
Okay.
That's just my 2 cents. I'm not
opposed to that. Not opposed to that.
I'm sure as hell not an engineer, Steve, so I have no idea.
It's, it still comes back, there's some pieces in here, but I can have some conversation with the design team on that. If we're not gonna signalize it now, if it doesn't deserve actually putting the signals heads up and activating the signal system, and we need to do something different in terms of the pedestrian crossing for the trail system, what is that? But I think we can consume that a little bit differently, and still be able to present some options there to the citizens in March, so. I'm okay taking that direction, council. Yeah.
You can either table it or you can just vote it down
You can-
completely.
Yeah, I'm fine voting it down.
Yeah, if you're gonna take it off, just, yeah, okay. I think everybody understands that, right? Any other comments?
Thank you for the conversation, council.
Any other comments? Anybody here like to come up?
David Jansma. I live up there. Did we get the results from the study of the roundabout traffic flow that was proposed earlier this year? You said that they were gonna do a study of the traffic flow at the roundabout on 25th and Benjamin.
So currently, right, the roundabout is currently not budgeted as part of the project.
That's not what I asked.
I know, I'm gonna answer what you asked.
Answer what I asked.
So when we had those meetings with the landowners up there, that was a question we asked was, you know, the opinions on those, and we presented a couple options, some redesign. Redesign would have a substantial impact up there. We also presented some technology that's currently being implemented in a couple states, where they are metering traffic into the roundabout with some reasonable success, during those peak periods. And so rather than have to sit there and wait, you can meter that in. Visiting with those homeowners adjacent to the 25th Street corridor, the overall consensus was that, you know, yes, the traffic does pick up during peaks, but they did not feel it was something that really needed to be addressed. So based on those conversations, we're thinking about doing a study and putting in a system to meter traffic during peak.
Well, I live up there, you didn't ask my opinion. The traffic there is horrendous at, like I said, 9, noon, 3, and 5. And people don't know how to drive roundabouts. If you put a stoplight there, you're gonna slow the traffic down where you probably won't need a traffic light at Dover and 25th. I've lived up there for 40-some years, and it's pretty tough. And they come down Dover, and like I've said, there needs to be a stop sign at Dover and Clearfield, because they go right through it. Like I said, the last meeting, they did slow them down when they put the sign that, or the speed sign that registers them. That was great. But I don't know if this is a solution. The solution is 25th and Benjamin, not Dover and 25th. And like I said, I've lived up there forever and watched the development happen. So just do the right thing and understand the people that live up there, check with all the people that live up there, and ask opinions, not a select few. Thanks for your time.
All right.
Yeah, and we will be gathering, again, in March at 30% design. We'll be gathering more public input from the larger community in that area.
Name is Tim Ernst, and I've lived on Dover Street for probably 30 years. And I have never had any problems getting on 25th Street. Occasionally you might have to wait for 3 or 4 cars coming from the north. Nothing serious. But you get down to that crazy roundabout at 10 minutes to 8. And granted, I'm not in a hurry. I don't care. I'm just heading to coffee. But it's the cars from the north are backed up probably 2 blocks. And the cars from El Dorado are backed up clear down to the bottom of the hill. And it's, either people don't know how to negotiate that roundabout, or it needs to go away. Because it's, you know, some people are cutting through by the bank there to get going, but it's very, very busy time of the day. You go there about 7:45 and 7:50, and you just go up there and sit in the middle of that roundabout and see what a mess it is. I think signal lights probably that they don't have to operate 24/7, but just a couple times, you know, the busier times of the day, and you'd keep traffic moving a little lot better, and you'd have a lot happier people.
Thanks, Tim. It is, you know, I live in that area too. It is a rough intersection to get in front of. So, anybody else, anything? All right, so we're on to voting. So let's vote. Is everybody stand the vote? Okay, all right. Looks like it.
All council members present voting in opposition, motion fails.
All right. We are on to item number 25, consideration of ordinance number 5957, amending section 8-9 of the official city code to exclude river areas from the prohibitions contained in that section related to water recreation, and to make it an offense to jump from the Johnson Park pedestrian bridge. The ordinance includes language specifically stating that individuals who choose to enter the water in river areas do so at their own risk.
I'll offer for consideration ordinance number 5957.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Nate's going to be leading discussion.
For clarification, is this 5957 or 5956?
5957.
It's just wrong in the packet.
It's just wrong on the
Okay,
enclosure.
thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, tonight we're talking about the water recreation ordinance, along with the improvements to improve river use, the safety, and also look at state law regarding our rights in the river as well. Just some background. And our current ordinance outlines the rules for swimming, wading, boating, and other water recreation activities. But this is specific to the river. Some background on this. On Mother's Day weekend, it was a very nice day. And it was our first day of the year, and we got real busy. And I had a lot of calls when I came in on that Monday morning. We had a lot of people jumping off the bridge, people jumping off rocks, and just rumors of people getting hurt. I don't know if that was actual. I couldn't confirm that, but that was what came up. So we had to look at our ordinance and what we could enforce, what we couldn't enforce, and we had to fall back on the swimming ordinance that we have that's designed for, or that's written for lakes and reservoirs throughout the state. This swimming ordinance will clarify that the prohibition for swimming doesn't apply to rivers. Currently, it's permitted in park waters unless designated areas. We do designate no swimming at Skyview, and so that's what our current our regulations are. Rivers would be the exception. Individuals may enter the water at their own risk. State and local agencies do not assess or certify river conditions because water levels, the quality of the water, the depth and hazards, they all change daily. So they don't regulate those at a state level. They kind of let you decide for yourself. We also added no jumping from the bridge because that is something that we do want to enforce. And we did put some meat to that, and the violation would be up to a $500 fine. Our public rights, the public has a right to float, paddle, tube, swim, or enter the water column and float along the river as they see fit. It's not something we can regulate. Touching or standing may be considered trespassing unless you're briefly portaging around a structure. So those are the state rules. So our city role is to respect and maintain those river access rights, but also communicate our risks clearly, enforce unsafe behaviors, including jumping from the bridge. We want to be able to enforce that, and we also want to update our signage. We have, currently, we have our life jacket requirement, yield to upcoming watercraft from upstream. Swift, we want to make sure we're mentioning that there's swift water, there's strong currents, the depths change suddenly, there's no water quality testing done. And so we want to make sure that's all added, and also that you're entering at your own risk. So we're not recommending swimming or wading in a river. Rivers are very dangerous. You need to know what your limits are. But if you're out there just wanting to, go kayaking or surfing at the surf wave, or if you fall off, you want to be able to swim to shore, that's okay to do that. The Parks and Recreation Board did vote 8-1 to deny a request to keep the no swimming signage up, so that's why we're here today. They said the existing signage was sufficient. We need to enforce the current rules, especially the jumping from the bridge. That's a high priority for them. Public river rights need to be honored, and individuals need to be able to enter at their own risk. That's all I have. I'm happy to take any questions, though.
I don't have any questions, just a comment that thanks for kind of cleaning this up a little bit, getting the right signage out there.
Okay. Any other comment from anybody else? Thanks for doing that. I'd probably be one of those kids who would be jumping off that bridge when I was younger, so. Anyway, is that it for discussion? Short title, please.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 18-9 of the official city code to exclude river areas from the prohibitions contained in Section 18-9A, to make it an offense to jump from the Johnson Park pedestrian bridge, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for the publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Right. Please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance number 5957 carries on first reading.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and waive the second and third readings.
Second. All right, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative. Ordinance number 5957 carries on second and third.
Okay, we're going on to administration reports. Will's going to come up and talk about the 2025 snow and ice plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We'll go through the PowerPoint here. Not a lot has changed from last year. We have another addition of a snowplow truck, which will help speed up our process, hopefully, depending on the winter. But we don't have a whole lot for change in lane miles. We're running right at 526 lane miles, 60 plus cul-de-sacs, and 20 miles of alleys. The alleys kind of dependent on how much actually it snows and when it freezes up, but usually it's more like 3-4 inches before we go through those. And then the emergency snow routes consist of approximately 80 miles of streets. The existing snow operation, streets will be cleaned when weather permits with the timing of the storm. The snow removal consists of 23 street and fleet personnel. Equipment consists of 15 plow trucks, 4 loaders with pushers, 1 loader with a snow blower if we need that, 2 pickups with plows for the alleys. 10 of the trucks have salters, and 5 of the trucks are set up with brine units. At the yard, we have, when we start out before the storm starts, we have the capacity to hold 30,000 gallon of brine on site, 10,000 gallon of brine salt mixture. It's either right now we're using beet heat. That's blended at a 70-30 blend. And we have 5,000 gallons of brine loaded on the trucks ahead of the storm. Snow operation and priorities, emergency snow routes in the downtown business district. So the emergency snow routes and the downtown business districts are normally hit about the same time. They are the first streets that are the staff plows when they leave the building. And they're designed that the traveling public should only have to go about 6 blocks to hit a road that's been plowed if we haven't got into residential yet. And then the next page is the combined emergency snow routes throughout the city, the mains that we hit. There might be a few missing there where they're just too close to narrow them in on here, but that were added last year. But these are the main roads that are hit when we first leave the yard. The downtown business district, that plowing operation normally starts around 2 o'clock in the morning. Let traffic get out from downtown businesses. If they're out there earlier and the snow's over, sometimes we start earlier than that, but maybe start over on Madison or something like that in Brosh and then work our way to Norfolk Avenue as the time allows for that. That consists of the 4 loaders with the pushers downtown. They pile that in various piles and then that's hauled that night, the following day, or depending on when we get done, we might haul some of the piles off that aren't in the busy areas at that time. The snow emergency declaration, that's declared by city officials, normally talking with Scott and Steve will decide that. Chief Ty will come up with that just depending on the storm. Then the necessary for public safety, make snow removal timely and cost efficient for the streets department. And then we ask that park on even sides of the street during the emergency or any snowstorm just speeds up the process for what we're doing. We're starting to run into, as our equipment's gotten bigger with wings on it, it's just probably a matter of time before we park on even sides of the street all the time. But we'll see how each year goes. But it's just getting tougher to get through town with these bigger pieces of equipment. And then, so it's parking on even side streets for that large equipment and then no parking on snow emergency routes during the snow emergency. Yep. No, that one was in there. It's been in there for every year, so works good though. The snow emergency notification, we notify dispatch and then we notify the city crews. We work with Nick to get that sent out for the emergency text alerts, Twitter, Facebook, local media, the electronic signs, get that put on it. And then you can sign up for the snow alerts or any emergency alerts go to the City of Norfolk's website, and then up in the top right corner, you can push on Get Alerts, and there's a number there you text, and then you can start getting all the alerts when they happen for snow emergencies and any other emergency that the city has going on. And then there's a way to get off of that also. The de-icing operations, we work closely with the police division, anything from the snow emergency to let them know so they don't start getting the cars that are parked in the wrong place, or if they're seeing something iced up when we're not out, they let us know through dispatch. The priority is the emergency snow routes and the bridges first, like before when I said we leave the yard. And then we have a couple no salt streets this year, not as many in the past. North 27th Street, West Benjamin Avenue to the dead end, and then Parkway, North 27th to the dead end. The city crew did a lot of work in there this year. We'll try to just hit that with brine or a blend for this first year up there. A lot of the other ones where Elkhorn paving's been, they're split up kind of all over the city. We don't have nothing that's really solid paving. It's more patching, and we'll just do our best. It's kind of all over town, so it's hard to get across all those with no salt sometimes. The enhanced snowplow operations, first shift, 2 AM to 3:30, and these move around. It could be 10 o'clock at night. It really depends on, it's in there. If it's a perfect world, it would be 2 in the morning till whenever we get them cleaned up, or we get a second shift in there. Normally, that second shift isn't called in unless something's gonna snow through the night, or we got a really bad wind to keep something open, like a couple of years ago when we ran out of clock for 3-4 days. But normally, with the equipment we have and just the way things are going, normally we can get through there 8, 9, 10 hours. It's sped up quite a little. So some of the routes, when we go out on snow emergency, we don't use all the trucks now with wings. We have some trucks that go right into residentials, which is really sped up getting through that part of it for us. So if we had to call in the extras, it'd be somewhere from 3 to 5 guys. With the wing trucks, we can run 3 trucks and pretty much get through the emergency routes once or twice through the night when there's no traffic. And then if it was really bad, we'd call in a couple loaders to help push out downtown. But normally don't have that problem, but you never know. And the goal is to keep the primary and snow emergency routes open during that time. That is the presentation. And also in your booklet, then you have the snow plan as well. It kind of spells out more of the stuff if you want to read through that. But I take any questions you have.
Well, thanks, Will, for putting this together and all the hard work you guys put in during the snow season.
Thank you.
And it's really made a difference on, I would say, the amount of calls we receive, or people receive on the council. You know, you guys have done a tremendous job last few years, so appreciate that.
And you got your new snowplow in?
Yep, that was delivered the first week of October. Should be ready to roll, hopefully. I think as well, I think Dan's here from Wausau, and maybe you guys want to have a word with what happened there.
Come on up, Dan. Got to sit through the whole meeting.
Yeah. Dan Wamberg, Wausau. We recently got the opportunity to purchase a new plow truck from you guys, the city of Norfolk. It was well within our budget, something we could afford. We didn't have to go, I think the last truck we got maybe come out of Wisconsin or somewhere. So being local is great. We replaced a 76 Chevy with what year was it? 07 maybe? 2007, so yeah, quite the upgrade for us. But the Village of Wausau very much appreciates Norfolk for stepping up and just giving us the opportunity for equipment that wasn't any use for you guys anymore, but is a great asset for us. So, and we thank you all very much. So.
Hopefully get a knock on wood here, because just the season hasn't started yet, but.
Yeah, so hopefully we have it like last year.
Right, right.
Thank you for sharing that, Dan.
Yes, so, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dan. Good. Are we done? Okay.
One quick note, I'm not gonna complain or nothing, but whoever is in charge of the downtown, it is the most festive I've ever seen it. And it's, when you drive through downtown, that Johnny Carson Park looks amazing, and all the trees at Johnson Park and those funky little colored lights really look nice.
Thanks, Tim. Well, I believe that's everyone. That being said, we're adjourned.